Welcome to Fox One Gal Stories. I like to tell a story about ideas, concepts, and beliefs. Remember, I have no fancy title after my name or a paper that says I'm qualified to do this. So let's just call it a story. I'm just sharing some ideas here and they are there for the taking. Or please feel free just to turn this off. As humans, we're gifted with the ability to create abstract concepts, ideas, and beliefs. Another quality of the mind is that it's self-absorbed. We talk to ourselves all day long, and some like to call this thinking. Why is it necessary for us to inwardly repeat what we already know? The aspect of the mind that is self-reflective and has a sense of itself is what some may call the ego. When we meet people who talk about themselves endlessly, we say they're egotistical. We are all egotistical in a way because we are constantly talking about ourselves to ourselves. Some like to call this thinking. All that talk going on inside of us telling us either how wonderful we are or how stupid we are. Either way, the bottom line is that the world is all about us. When a friend is late, we are inconvenienced. When we are cut off in traffic, our life is compromised. When our tire goes flat, our valuable time is wasted. The focus of our mind of ego is endlessly on itself. We may even be under the illusion that we are generous, kind, and loving, when in fact we do things because we simply want approval and appreciation of others. This is what I like to call the mind of the ego. We have become attached to the very system we created and started to give our power and faith to. I am talking about those concepts and beliefs that actually hurt us. We created them, and we don't have to be unhappy with our concepts to hurt ourselves and others. It is not necessary to fight with ourselves. We can simply make a choice in any moment to change our relationships to our concepts. The key for me was to disempower that judge that lived in my mind and remove the book of law it created that passed out all my judgments. I want you to see how our mind, rather than life circumstances we find ourselves in, tends to create our unhappiness. The mind is a tool. Without it, we would be unable to communicate verbally with each other. To be able to communicate with our fellow humans, we need agreed upon code. The first step to accomplish this is to create words that represent those items and objects that we would like to talk about. Once we have agreed upon the words that make up our language, then we create abstract concepts to describe the structures we have created in our society. So let me do that. Abstract concepts are thoughts or ideas that are conceived with the mind but have no physical or concrete existence. We use concepts to describe our personal experiences so that we can communicate with one another. A belief is a statement that we accept as true or real. It is also a firmly held opinion or conviction. An opinion is a view or judgment formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. A judgment is a conclusion one comes to based on one's opinion. Property, for example, is a human concept that only humans understand. A dog, for example, would have no idea that it just traveled from one neighbor's property to another. Ask yourself this: can you really own the earth beneath your feet? We can buy and sell land because we agreed in our country that it is possible. The tree that lives on your property has no idea it belongs to us. Other common abstract concepts are money, education, relationships, family, sports, friendships, war, race, and culture. Once we have created our language and abstract concepts, the next part of the process is for us to make rules about those concepts. Let's take property. We can agree that we need money to use to acquire property, and we must sign a contract and have a deed to own the property. Then we need a legal system to make sure that the transaction is legal. Can you see the idea of deed, money, contracts, and even lawyers are just of our own creation? If we agreed tomorrow that we can't buy or sell land, then the whole structure of real estate would fall apart. You don't need a belief to know what love is. You know it. And I don't have to have my mind to tell me what love is. I can say this because in a way I have left my mind out of it. I know what I know. I don't have the words to use to describe it. Once I do, it becomes a concept and a belief. Because you cannot physically see love, yet you know it exists. Once you've taken the time to create all of your concepts and beliefs, then we have to have a way to make sure they are implemented. Our minds, being the creative entities that they are, have figured out the perfect solution, which I call the judge. Every mind has a judge present and ready to make sure all of our concepts and beliefs are perfectly executed. Then it creates a book of law. Then we use that book of law to live our lives and make decisions in our lives. And we use it to make other people in our lives wrong. Worse yet, we often use it to make ourselves feel wrong. The mind is like a computer, great for adding numbers and doing the calculations, but it can't give us a gut feeling based on silent knowledge that we have constant access to. I have learned to use that silent knowledge in addition to the information that is available to me. I acknowledge how I am feeling and pay attention. The more I experience what comes from my heart versus my programming, the more I was able to discover who I was. After practicing trying to quiet my mind, I began to hear that inner voice, letting that guide me. How many times have you deliberated for days over a decision and ended up doing what your intuition told you to do in the first place? So why did you waste all that time thinking? I have a feeling that it was because you didn't want to make a mistake. We didn't want to go against the judge in our own mind. After all, you know how badly our mind can punish us if we dare make a mistake? With the judge hanging over our heads, it's challenging to take a chance in life. The consequences are just too great. We worry about what other people will think about us and how they will judge us for our errors. We make errors in life. This is how we grow and learn. But once we deal with the consequence of our actions, that's enough. It's done. It's over. But our inner judge can't let it go. And it's 100 times worse than any outside criticism, since it's in our head and we can't escape it. True justice is taking responsibility for our mistakes and then forgiving ourselves and then move on. Remember, being responsible is simply the willingness to accept the outcome of our choices we have made, and it's also our ability to change our responses. So here's some questions to ponder, just getting to know the judge that may live in your head. How do you judge your family members? What things do you judge harshly about yourself? What have you done in your life that you have a lot of self-loathing about? What things have happened in your life that you feel are unforgivable? If we recognize that the judge is not our friend, we can work at bouncing it right off the bench. Imagine how peaceful it would be if we didn't hear the judge saying horrible things about us and other people all the time. Or if the judge would stop telling us how to run our lives. We have it within ourselves to be happy, and it's really in our nature to find that happiness no matter what the circumstances are. I used to see everything as unfair or unjust. Either life was not going the way I wanted it to go, or I wasn't getting what I thought I needed. People were not doing what I wanted them to do. Others were not keeping their promises, or doing what they were supposed to do. My time was not flowing smoothly, and my mind was not behaving properly. Salespeople were taking way too long to talk to me. Unruly drivers were speeding dangerously close to me in traffic. The line in the bank and the grocery store was just way too long. Then one day, I realized I had a belief that life should be fair. I realized none of these things were making me unhappy. It was my belief about the way life should be. Truth be told, life is what it is. My beliefs, concepts, and opinions are not going to change that one iota. I realized that my happiness depended on making some serious choices about what I wanted to believe about my reality. I didn't have to suffer. I didn't have to go through one unhappy emotion to another. I could live my life feeling good, having lots of energy, and not feeling victimized by everything. This change didn't happen in one day. Of course it happened over a course of several years, because it took me a long time to do an inventory of all the nonsense that I had in my book of law. Giving up my addiction to dueling out judgments was a challenge, but in the end, I learned that it was possible to live a happy life. I know when the judge tries to take his bench back. I find the humor of it, but I don't miss the suffering that it created. In our daily lives, we communicate our beliefs and feelings to each other without much thought, and often we feel hurt or angry about the things others say to us, especially if family is involved. I understand that people have their own point of view and beliefs that are being generated by the program. So when other people say things to us that we feel are hurtful, or they promise something to us and they don't follow through, we don't have to get upset. We can simply recognize that their thinking is different from what we are thinking. I always say this: if you're about to make a choice and you are having a hard time making that choice, let's learn to look at it in a new way. I always say it's an opportunity for you. Make a choice and see if the choice you made is working for you or not. How do you do that? Just step back. Become like a journalist. Just observe everything and just feel what you feel. Listen for when the judge takes over, and remember, that is not you. Let your experience be your teacher and see what is working for you and what is not. My spirit always wants to express itself freely. There is no resistance to it, and it flows with life. It expresses beauty and love, but word can't really describe it because word, again, limits its experience. My heart knows what it is. What gets in the way of me experiencing this? It's my behavior. That came from the program, which clings to what I believe about myself that prevents me from being all I can be in this life. So I began to design activities to expose my judge that lived in my head and began to disempower it. It was not easy going against behaviors that were created by my mind of the ego. It almost feels like you're going against yourself. The truth is that you're absolutely going against yourself. But who is the self we are talking about? The ego? The program self? Since I had parts of myself that still believed I was the program, or the mind, it did feel like I was going against who I was. This is a challenging activity, no doubt about it. One of the tasks that I used, and I did this so many times, I even found it quite fun after a while. I started taking new and different actions, even though they were not comfortable, not knowing what the results were going to be. Even though this process is tough, it's well worth it. Like I said, it eventually became fun. One of the activities that I did was I had a certain way I used to dress myself. Friends around me would call it my style. I'd take a week and dress totally different. I paid attention to the story and the judgments in my mind and what my mind was telling me. I didn't believe one word it would say. And I also would always do something I love to do at least once a week and stop listening to my mind when it said I should be doing something else. The mind is a powerful tool, but it should not be the ruler of our lives. I found the best moments in life are when I'm not thinking, not listening to the worries of yesterday or tomorrow. I'm living in the moment, and I'm just being me. Fox One Gal, over and out. Until next time.